turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. And just to confirm that my audio is working okay. So I take it that that my audio is working. So just want to thank SCORE for having me today. It's always a pleasure to come on these calls, and whether it's on a call or whether it's in person, to participate on these webinars. And really today, also want to just want to, I know hopefully we have some veterans on the call, and I don't want to miss the opportunity to thank you for your service, thank you for your sacrifices, and all the things that you have done for the country. So definitely want to convey that message. And we are going to talk about SBA lending programs um, this afternoon. And SBA does a lot of things, though. So I just want to mention this before we take the deep dive into lending. But we like to say that SBA starts, grows, expands, and assists with recovery. And so we do this really four ways. We provide counseling services to small businesses, and we really rely on what we call our resource partners to do that for us, being SCORE. And I had the next slide, we'll go through all of the partners, but SCORE does a great job. And that is, for the most part, how we provide our counseling is through these third parties, these partners with SBA. We also have lending programs, which we'll talk about today. We have government contracting programs. So we're not going to talk about that, but I do want to mention that we do have workshops on a regular basis on government contracting. And SBA helps small businesses get government contracts, and we do that through what we call certifications. And we have certification programs for veteran-owned small businesses, service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses, 8A, an 8A certification, which is a certification for economically and socially disadvantaged firms. We have a hub zone program, and we also have a woman-owned small business certification program. So we have all of that going on. And then we, in times of federally declared disasters, we have disaster loans. And so disaster loans are actually the only time that SBA makes loans directly to small businesses. And so, the last big disaster we had was the pandemic. I'm sure you all remember that. And we had some programs, the PPP loans, the economic injury disaster loans, all of that. And that was actually part of our disaster program. But we're well into hurricane season right now, and hopefully we're going to come out of this without a disaster. But if by chance we do, SBA will be there, and SBA is able to provide low interest long-term loans for recovery. And I have a couple of slides at the end on that we'll talk about. So let's kind of move forward. So talk a little bit more about the SBA Resource Partner Network. And so we have these organizations that SBA partners with. We provide them with funding. We provide them with oversight, so that they can serve as our boots on the ground to help small businesses. So this is, in effect, this is your tax dollars at work. And so about SCORE. If you're on this call today, you definitely know about SCORE. We also have what we call the SBDCs, or the Small Business Development Centers. They're typically associated with universities throughout the state, and they have offices across the state that can assist you. Then we have women's business centers. Okay, they focus on, as you may imagine, they focus on woman-owned small businesses, and we have 3 of those based in Columbia, Greenville, and Charleston. And so if you're in the Beaufort area, you would be served by the Charleston, they call it I Hope Women's Business Center. So they're there to assist. And then finally, we're really excited about this one. This is brand new. we have a new Veterans Business Outreach Center, or VBOC as we call it, and it is headquartered out of the Citadel in Charleston, and they do go statewide, and so they do things a little bit differently. They have a program that we call Boots to Business, and that is for military personnel that are transitioning out of service. And so they will go around to all the bases in South Carolina and provide this program. It's usually like 2 days. To give those veterans that are coming out of service the opportunity to learn more about entrepreneurship and whether that is something that they want to pursue as they come out of service. Then they also do a reboot to business that's open to veterans, and that's just for kind of the general public. If you've been out of the military for a while, and you would like to learn more about entrepreneurship, that is something that you may want to take a look at too. So we're really excited about all of these groups. They all do a great job. South Carolina is very fortunate to have the caliber of resource partners that we have. So just want you to be aware of that. And as we go through this presentation, you may feel like you need help in doing some of this stuff. And so this is where you would go, right? So you're going to go to SCORE, SBDC, Women's Business Center, or the VBOC, and they can assist you with some of the next steps.
William, we have on the Women's Center, the location. So even if they don't live in one of those cities, but they're still in South Carolina, like in Hilton Head, they should go to the Charleston location. Would that be best?
Yeah, that is correct. So, now, just like we're doing now, a lot of things can be done virtually. You don't have to do things in person. So, the Charleston Women's Business Center does serve the Low Country. Basically, they serve the same kind of general geographic area that I cover. So from Beaufort to Horry County, kind of to I-95, they cover all of those. And you don't necessarily have to. They do a lot of workshops as well. So that may be something you want to look at. A lot of those are in person, but if you were seeking assistance or help or counseling, a lot of that can be done virtually.
Thank you.
Yes. So we still get, and we've kind of created this to a degree with the programs that we had during the pandemic. SBA did have a lot of grant programs, and SBA did give away or provide grants to small businesses during the disaster. But that has all ended, okay? So right now, SBA has no grants for small businesses, right? No grants to small businesses to help you start your business, to help you grow your business. Now, there are some out there that, if you want to do the research, you may find some grants around. And Ellen, if you're on, you guys are actually doing a competition, is that right?
We're doing an award program for minorities in our 4 counties. So they have to meet certain requirements, but we are doing that. And I'll be sending the registrants information on that as well when I send out the recording.
Yeah, great. So that's my point. There are some out there. There may be some prerequisites for you to be able to qualify for that, but they're limited, right? And so, and it's from SBA standpoint, we have none. The other thing I want to make sure you understand, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, is that we have no direct loans. The only time SBA makes a direct loan is through our disaster loan program. So we have no direct business loans. It all comes in the form of a loan guarantee. And we'll talk more about that here in just a second. The first thing, before you even start talking about borrowing, you need to understand that you need to become what I call lender ready. And so you need to get, all of your information together. And the biggest piece of this is going to be your business plan. I get calls and people are interested in borrowing money, and I ask them, and they don't have a business plan. I ask them how much they need, and their answer is, well, how much can I borrow? And one thing you need to understand is that business loans are not like residential loans. You don't get like pre-qualified for those. For a business loan, you've got to determine specifically, what you are going to do with those loan proceeds. Where is that money going to go, and how much you need, down to the dollar. Um, and so if you were buying a piece of equipment for $25,000, you're going to you're going to need to spell that out in your business plan, and then a few other things, and your financial statements. So when you complete your business plan and you take it to a lender, I can promise you they're going to take a look at it. And the first thing they're going to do is you're going to have a summary in the beginning, right? In the first couple of pages, you're going to have a summary of your business plan, and they'll probably take a look at that. And then they are going to flip to the back, which is usually where your financial plan is located. Now, on this slide, I do have the management plan and marketing plan, and that is all important. But if you're going to borrow money, the banker is interested in how he's going to be repaid. And so that is where your financial plan comes into place. You've got to have, if you're an existing business, you're going to need to have at least 3 years of historical financial statements, and that's going to include an income statement and balance sheet. And then for the next 2 years, you're going to need projections, and that first year, projections month by month, based both for an income statement, balance sheet, and a cash flow statement, to be able to show that you're going to have the cash available to repay the loan. So if I have to stress anything, it is that you need to have your financial statements in order, and understand. That's the other piece, is understand your financial statement, so that if the lender asks you a question about something, you have the ability to explain that. Now, if you're an existing business, we know that we're coming out of the pandemic. Some businesses did really, really well, depending on the industry during the pandemic, and some did not. And we all understand that. So, you don't necessarily have to be able to show that you are profitable year over year, but you do need to be able to explain what happened if you weren't. So that's one of the biggest things, is to get your business plan in order, have that completed, and that is where the resource partners can play excuse me, a huge role with you on that. So that is, if you're doing homework, this is step one, really. You've got to get your business plan completed. So let's talk a little bit more. This is where we're going to dive into SBA loans, and how they work. And we're going to talk about most of these. The first one is what we call the SBA backed loans. And these come in two forms. And the government likes their acronyms, right? So we have a 7A loan program. And then we have another one that we call the 504 loan program. And these are both SBA backed loans, meaning they come with loan guarantees. And so just know that the 7A, and we'll go through these in detail, but the 7A loan is a typical government guarantee. It is the most popular loan that SBA has. Okay, and then we also have the 504 loan, which is used to purchase fixed assets. So that's land and real estate, construction of buildings, major pieces of equipment. And so we're going to talk in detail about those two programs. We're going to touch on we have a program for private investors. We'll mention that, have a slide or two on that. I also have a slide or two on research and development awarded funds, and that is where some grants can come into play. And then surety bonds. I do not have a slide on surety bonds, but I do want to say that that's one of the best kept secrets in SBA. We have a surety bond guarantee program. So if you're in the construction business industry, most of the time, you're going to be required to provide surety bonds, payment and performance bonds, bid bonds. Um, and so SBA can assist with that. They can be difficult to obtain in certain situations. And so the SBA Surety Bond Guarantee Program can assist you with obtaining the bonds. They can help you increase your bonding capacity, and it can also help you decrease the cost of obtaining your bonding. So I can, if you're interested in that, follow up with me, and I can get you information on that too. So if you need a loan to start, grow, or expand, so SBA does provide loans for all of those purposes. We have loans for ranging from microloans to our SBA backed loans. They all have competitive terms, lower down payments, flexible overhead requirements, and especially the microloans come with counseling and education. So the microloan, it does not, the lender doesn't give you the loan and just tell you in 30 days your payment is due. They work with you, assess your situation, determine, what type of counseling and education you need, and then they will make sure that that is provided for you. So very, very good program. So how does a 7A, an SBA loan work? And when I say SBA loan, I'm really talking about our 7A loan program right here. Okay, so this is a government guarantee loan program. And so the first thing you're going to do is build your business plan like we talked about, and your loan package with the help of SBA resource partners. So you can go to SCORE. SCORE will help you with that. You then apply to the lender of your choosing. Typically, it is going to be the bank that you bank with. It may not be. All banks don't participate with SBA. Maybe your bank doesn't want to do the loan, and you need to go to another loan or another lender. SCORE, SBA can both help give you some information on that and kind of maybe guide you a little bit on which direction you need to go or what lender you need to go to. And then it's up to the lender to choose whether they want to do the loan just conventionally or whether they want to use SBA. And so if you have the ability or if that lender is willing to make the loan without SBA, then that is the route that they will need to go. But if they determine that they do need the US or the SBA guarantee, the actual lender is the customer of SBA. So you, the business, are the customer of the bank, and then the bank is the customer of SBA. And they submit the loan to SBA for approval. So a couple of things to keep in mind here. SBA does not provide loans directly, right? As mentioned, it would have to be a disaster loan for SBA to make any kind of a direct loan. We don't have grants. We don't set the interest rates, okay? And we'll go into more detail about that. SBA does impose caps. We don't allow lenders just to charge, any exorbitant rate. It has to be a competitive rate. But that can be negotiated as well. And so that is something, that's an important part of it. The other thing is we cannot approve or force a lender to approve a loan for a small business. It's entirely up to the lender. It takes three. It takes the business, it takes the bank, and it takes SBA, and all three parties have to be willing to do the loan. So if any one backs out, then the other two, it won't work. You've got to have everybody on the same page, and everybody pulling together for the loan to work. There are occasions when, I've talked to businesses and it appears that they meet all the eligibility requirements for SBA, but the lender is not willing to do the loan. They don't have an appetite for it, and there's nothing SBA can do about that. That's the lender's choice, and so it is entirely up to them.
William, there's a question. So if that happens, here's the question. If that happens, should I go to another bank?
Yeah, absolutely. All banks are not the same. Some banks will do things that other banks will not do. Especially whether if it's a high risk type business, if it's a restaurant, some lenders just have no appetite for that. They're just not willing to make loans to restaurants, where others kind of specialize in it. And so yes, and that would be a situation where you may want to talk to SBA. You may want to talk to, if you're working with SCORE, talk to them. And we have some other tools that you can use too, that I'll explain a little bit in another slide. I do like this slide. I think this is a good explanation of when, you would be using the Small Business Administration for the 7A guarantee. And so this is really a spectrum, right? And so on one end of the spectrum is the most viable business borrower. They do not need any backing from SBA to get a loan. They have experience management. They have good cash flow, great credit, good collateral. The business, they have a good business plan or good business idea. They've probably been in business for a while. They have a financial reserve. They have money in the bank, equity in the business. They don't need SBA. They don't need the backing of SBA. They can get the loan without any type of SBA backing. So they're not eligible. The other end of the spectrum is that business that is not bankable. They may have very poor credit. They have no experience. They don't have repayment ability. They don't have a good business plan. It's just not a good bankable loan. So it's not going to happen. SBA falls somewhere in the middle. So, maybe there's a business that is a startup. We see that a good bit. The lender is just not totally comfortable financing that startup, so they would like to have the SBA guarantee to give them the backing that they would like. Maybe the business needs a longer loan term that the bank can provide with SBA. That would lower their payment, that would increase their cash flow. And so that would be a really good reason to use SBA. Maybe it's an industry that they are not real fond of, but they would like to do it. Again, a restaurant, high risk, but they like the borrower. They like everything about it, but it's still a high risk industry, so they're not comfortable. But with an SBA guarantee, they would be willing to do the loan. So those are just some ideas and some examples of when the SBA loan guarantee comes into play. The other one I did not mention is collateral, and we'll talk about that more. But SBA does allow for a collateral shortfall if the business has adequate cash flow and debt service coverage. So if they're generating cash to service the loan, but fall short on the collateral that's required, that could be another good reason why a bank may want to use SBA's loan guarantee. All right, so what are other benefits? I've touched on a little bit of this, but we can provide longer financing up to 25 years for real estate. You're not going to see that in just a normal commercial loan. 15 would probably be the most. The interest rate we do impose a cap on those rates, and it is tied to Wall Street Prime, and we'll talk specifically about that, I think, in the next slide. That, longer term is going to give you a lower monthly payment. We don't allow renewals or balloon payments. And if you don't know what that is, it's where a bank may make you a loan for 5 years, but they'll set the payments on maybe a 15-year term, but you've got a renewal in 5 years. And so what that means is that in 5 years, either you've got to renegotiate with your current bank, or you're going to have to refinance or pay the loan off. And so SBA doesn't allow that. We only allow a straight term loan with no balloon payments on those. So that, I think, is a real benefit. There are no surprises, right? So you get to 5 years and maybe the economy is not doing great, and you could have a lot of difficulty refinancing at that point, where if you have a straight term loan, that's not a worry.
William, there's a question about this. Are the rates adjustable or fixed?
Yeah, good question. They can be either, and again, I have some examples of what the rates are right now. Prime rate, I will tell you this: prime is at 8.5, and so I'll show you in the next slide or so what the maximum rates for SBA could be, and it's typically you're going to see adjustable rates on loans right now. And it's a double-edged sword. You know, nobody really knows how high rates may go, but if rates come down and you have an adjustable rate, then that's not such a bad thing. As the rates come down, your payment will go down and you don't have to refinance. So that's a kind of a little bit of a gamble, but there are some lenders that will do a fixed rates as well. A lot of lenders like to do the variable rates because they do sell the guaranteed portion on the secondary market. It's a way for the bank to make money. At the end of the day, that is why they're there. The bank is there to make money, and so a lot of banks prefer the adjustable rates. Some banks, though, will do the fixed rates and they don't sell that guaranteed portion, and they just retain that in their loan portfolio. So every bank is different. It's worthwhile to talk to two or three without a doubt. You can transfer the loans to a new owner in some situations. I already mentioned we do allow for a potential collateral shortfall. That's a reason why a lender would want to use SBA. And then our longer loan terms and lower interest rates do provide for increased cash flow. So there are fees that go along with these loans. And so what SBA achieves to do is have what we call a zero subsidy rate, meaning that Congress does not have to budget funding for the SBA loan guarantee program. So we try to operate at a zero subsidy rate. And to do that, we do have to charge some fees. The guarantee fee, that's not really, I wouldn't worry about that. That's really more of a lender thing. But if the loan is over 150,000, it is a 75% guaranteed to the bank. If it's less than that, then it's 85%. But the business, that really doesn't impact the business at all. This year, actually starting October 1, loans of $1 million or less will have a zero guarantee fee. So loans of less than $1 million, SBA will not charge any fees on. Once you go over $1 million, and it's kind of graduated, but they range from 1.45% to 3.75% of the guaranteed portion, and those fees can be included in with the loan. And so the maximum loan amount is $5 million. That is just that 3.75 million is the guaranteed portion. That would be 75% of the 5 million. So, our 7A loans range, maybe 1,000 is extremely low end, up to 5 million. That is the range on those. So eligibility factors, most commercial businesses are eligible. You do have to be a small business under what we call the NAICS code, and that stands for the North American Industry Classification System. And if you don't know what your NAICS code, if you don't know what your NAICS code is, you need to find out. And you can just Google NAICS code and it will take you to a site where you can kind of drill down into your industry and figure that out. But everybody needs to know what their NAICS code is. 99% of businesses in South Carolina are considered small. And then you can also go on SBA's webpage, and there's a tool there that you can use. If you enter your NAICS code, you can determine what, if your business is indeed small. But again, 99%. So the odds are you are small. Um, most purposes, loan purposes are eligible, whether it's working capital, machinery and equipment, real estate, all of that is eligible. The business does have to be located in the U.S. It has to be a for-profit business. We get this question on a regular basis. SBA cannot finance nonprofits. Okay, so of any sort, no churches, no other nonprofits. It has to be a small business for profit. All right. And then you have to have the ability to demonstrate repayment. Of course, the lender's going to want to see where their money's coming from. They want to know how they're going to be repaid. And then this is somewhat new. Franchises are now eligible across the board. We used to have to do a review for eligibility and affiliation on franchises. We've changed our affiliation rules. So SBA is no longer doing reviews on franchises. They are considered eligible. And so SBA does have to get the information, and it's entered on the application, but we do not do a franchise review. So that makes it a little bit easier. And that's another, we see a lot of a lot of banks doing franchise financing through SBA. That's another big reason for banks to use SBA. So what's not?
William,
Yes.
well, you're going into this one too. So there's a question: is a nightclub or bar eligible? So that would fall
Yes.
under hospitality, food and beverage, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, they are eligible. There are some businesses that are not eligible. Number one, real estate investment is not eligible. Really, it has to be the business has to occupy the site. Lending activities are not eligible. So if you have a business that is lending money in some form or fashion, that's not eligible. No pyramid sales. Long-term real estate rental is not eligible. So like a hotel or motel is eligible, but if you're trying to rent a house long-term, that's not eligible. Of course, nothing illegal is eligible. Talked about nonprofits, businesses that limit membership for any reason other than capacity. That would be like a women's health club. If men are not allowed, then it would not be eligible. Another good one we get is like, are Airbnbs eligible? And the answer is no, because that's we consider that a speculative type business. It's still a real estate investment. And so that is not eligible. All right, terms and conditions, covered this to some degree. Working capital, furniture, fixed machinery, equipment, furniture, and fixtures, 10 years. Real estate, 25. If purchasing an asset, the term can exceed the life of the asset. Interest rates vary on the program. Again, the lender determines the rate, and it can be variable or fixed. So let's look at this. It's getting expensive, man. So it's taking a bite out of your business. So prime is 8.5%, right? And so interest rates, and these are the caps, and lenders can do less than this. They don't have to use these. This is the maximum that they can charge. But prime plus 6.5% if it's under 50,000, prime plus 6% for loans of 50 to 250, 250 to 350, it's 4.5, and then 350 and one and greater, prime plus 3%. So any way you cut it, you're going to be in double digits on your interest rate. So that's just something you need to take a look at with your business plan, with your pro forma statements, and just take a look to see how that is going to impact you. And one thing a lot of people I know did not do is you need to consider, hopefully we're kind of peaked out, right? Hopefully we're reaching the upper end of rates. But what if we're not? So you need to consider what's going to happen. What if rates went up another 2%? What impact does that have on your income statement and balance sheet? And so I highly encourage you. That, again, in my opinion, that is the most important piece of your business plan. Now, we do have other programs. We have lines of credit that are available, and these are kind of specialized. These fall under the 7A loan program, a little bit specialized. We have a cap line. We can do lines of credit up to $5 million. We also have an SBA Express program. Now, this is a program that's widely used. We give the lender the authority to approve the loans without SBA's review. So it's really quick. That loan is up to $500,000 now. The guarantee fee is 50%, and this loan can also be used for a line of credit. So a bank can do this, a line of credit, very easily for up to $500,000. The line would last for 5 years with a 5-year term out, so a total of 10 years. So we see that used a fair amount too. So that's a good one to keep in mind. All lenders don't have that authority. So that's another thing you would just need to confirm. If you were trying to go that route, you would need to confirm that the lender you're working with does have the authority. Veterans, again, thank you. And so for our veterans, we do provide Veterans Advantage Express. And so it is the same interest rates as SBA Express, except there's no guarantee fee. Now, you just heard me say there's no guarantee fee for loans of $500,000 for this year anyway, and that's true. But with Veterans Advantage Express, year in and year out, they will not be charged a guarantee fee on those express loans. So if you're a veteran, that's certainly a program, another program that you may want to check out. That being the Express program.
William, we have a question just about that previous slide. Can you go a little bit more? Is a line of credit versus a regular capital loan, is that different or the same?
Yeah, so good question. So a line of credit, so if you have a regular term loan, let's just say it's $100,000, the bank is going to advance you $100,000, and then they're going to set the payment for you. And let's just say it was for equipment and working capital. So you're going to have a 10-year term loan. And at the end of 10 years, you're going to get the total 100,000. You're going to use the funds as you said, and then you're going to have payments for the next 10 years. And at the end of 10 years, your loan is paid off, and that's the end of it. With a line of credit, let's say it's a $100,000 line of credit. And so we're going to set this line of credit up on a 5-year revolving term with a 5-year term out. And so what that means is that you can get the $100,000. You're going to use that, odds are, for working capital. You're going to get that working capital. Maybe you have a contract that you're working on. And so you're funding and financing that contract with that $100,000. Okay, so you had to have some money to bridge to get the work done until you're finally paid for the work from the owner for the contract. So you get paid maybe $125,000 for the work you're doing, and you would take that money and pay down that line of credit. Okay, so then it's back to zero. And so now you've got another job comes up, and maybe it's a little smaller. You just need 50,000. And so you can draw 50,000 off of that line of credit. You do the work, you receive the revenue, the payments for the work, and then it's applied. You apply that back onto your loan, and you get it back down to zero. And you can do that time and time again under the express loan. Again, that's up. You can go up to 500,000 on that, and it is a 5-year five-year term with a 5-year term out, right? So 5-year line of credit, I should say, with a 5-year term out, total of 10 years. And so that is the difference between a line of credit and a straight term loan. Does that answer the question? That makes sense?
Yes.
Good, good. So we can use these loans for a lot of different purposes. You can purchase land, construction, renovation, machinery and equipment, furniture and fixtures. You can buy existing businesses. Okay, we see that a fair amount of time. So we have a change of ownership. SBA also now allows for a partial change of ownership. That's a new change that just came about. Um, Working capital, inventory, lines of credit. Certain cases, we can refinance existing debt. If refinancing that debt is going to increase the cash flow and debt service coverage by at least 10%, then SBA can refinance it. And so it has to make sense. It has to be in the benefit of the business to refinance. So we see some of that too. So, really any typical commercial loan purpose, these loan funds can be used for. All right, so let's change gears real quickly. All what we've talked about so far is nothing but a 7A loan. So 7A, it's a government guarantee loan where you go to a commercial lender, you get the loan from the bank, SBA provides the guarantee, and you repay the bank. Okay, so switch gears. Now we're going to talk about what we call a 504 loan with a certified development company, or we call them CDCs. And so this is a loan program that is used to finance fixed assets. And when I say fixed assets, that means things that cannot move, right? So it's land, it's buildings, it can be construction, or if you have major pieces of equipment that are permanently fixed in that building, they would typically be eligible for 504 financing as well. So if you're looking to purchase a building, if you're looking to build a building, this is a program that you should strongly consider. Okay, so you can do that same thing with a 7A loan, but let me tell you a little bit more about 504 and why it can be advantageous to go this route. And so just the structure of the loan, it's what I call leverage, because you're going to have two different loans. It's financed by a CDC, and they're going to do 40%. And then you're going to have a commercial lender, a normal commercial bank. They're going to do 50%, and then the borrower, you, would have to contribute 10%, and 10% is pretty advantageous. And so the 504 piece is below market rate, right? So prime is 8.5%. Right now, I think the 504 loan is about 6.5. Okay, it's at a fixed rate and it's for 25 years. All right, so that is a great deal. Now the lender, the other 50%, they're going to take a first lien on assets. The CDC comes behind them on that, takes a second lien, and the lender's going to do their, a loan as they typically would. So, you're going to have what I call a blended rate. You're going to have the rate in term of the commercial lender, and then you're going to have the very advantageous rate of the CDC. So you just need to take a look at that and see if it, if it benefits you more so. And typically it is going to be a better deal than a 7A loan for the most part, especially right now. And so I would, again, if you're looking to buy a building, build a building, buy land, all of those kinds of things, this is a really good program. So it is a fixed rate for 25 years. Maximum rate established when the debenture backing is sold. And so basically what SBA does is you could really consider it a bond. We sell bonds to generate the funds for the loan. And again, right now those rates are about 6.5%. So just want to mention that one. This is a really, really good program if you're trying to purchase your building. Some people got caught. I'll tell you, I mean, it's kind of a little bit of almost like a horror story. A lot of people didn't realize rates were going to go up, right? So they got these 7A loans at a very low rate. At one point in time, they're sitting on loans around 3%, and and so that was all well and good. And then they adjusted, and now their rates are in double digits, and so it's creating some real problems for some businesses. So that's just something to keep in mind. This takes a little bit of that out, takes a little bit of that uncertainty out of the equation as well. So how about loans, smaller loans? What do we do for those? So like loan options for startups and other types of businesses that don't need so much money. There are some other really good options. We do have what we call a community advantage loan. These are loans of 350,000 or less, prime rate plus 6%. This is really a 7A loan, and most of these are being administered by what I call non-bank lenders, non-traditional lenders, CDFIs, community development financial institutions, right? So they're not a bank, but they're providing these loans as a service, and so a lot of times banks don't want to make those smaller loans, right? So 350,000, and all the terms and other rates apply to this loan at this point. Then if it's even smaller, we do have a micro loan program, $50,000 or less, minimum of $500. If you start getting down that low, there may be some other things that you could do to finance your business, business credit cards and those kind of things. As long as you pay them off on time, that can also be a good alternative. But the average loan for this is about 13,000. Maximum term is 6 years. Interest rates are a little bit higher on this one, but it is based on the 5-year Treasury rate. And so you can take a look at that. This is one though that again you get technical assistance and training that comes along with it. So this is a really good program. A lot of times what we see happening is businesses using this for a startup. They're successful, and then they will ultimately grow their business and end up refinancing the micro loan. So just another good tool. We do have several good micro lenders in the state. We have Beaufort County Black Chamber of Commerce. They have a micro loan program. We have the Climb Fund in Charleston, and then we have Community Works in Greenville, and all of those serve. I think they all serve Beaufort and surrounding counties at this point. All right, let's talk about credit worthiness real quick. I do feel like this is very important, and I know we're starting to push on time. But so when you develop your business plan, these are the things that you're going to really be answering. So when a loan officer looks at your application, these are the things that they are trying to determine what kind of character you have. And so that really ties back to your credit report and your credit score. So you need to know what that is. 650 is probably the bare minimum that you need to have to be successful to obtain a loan. From SBA standpoint, this might be a little bit of extreme, but if you're incarcerated or on probation or parole, you are not eligible for an SBA loan. So you do need to keep all that in mind. You need to know how your credit report looks and what your credit score is. Cash flow. You've got to know what your cash flow is. For SBA loans, you have to have what we call a debt service coverage at a minimum of 1.15. And what that means is that you've got to have $1.15 left over for every dollar of debt payment that you have after your expenses come out of the income statement, right? So you do have to have a positive cash flow. Got to be able to, the lender needs to be able to see how they're going to be repaid. Trust me, they do not want to be repaid from your collateral. And that's the next one. Collateral is expected for the loan. Depending on the size of the loan, depends on what collateral the lender is required to take. So smaller loans, it's just assets of the business. Once you go over 500,000, then the lender, if the loan is not fully secured with assets of the business, then they are required to consider personal assets. Do you have equity in your house? Do you have any other investments that could collateralize the loan? If you're still short, SBA does have the ability to make the loan as long as you have adequate cash flow. Okay, so that's just another reason to use SBA. Capitalization. Don't expect the bank or SBA to finance your project in its entirety. If it's a new business, you can expect a bank to ask for anywhere from 20 to 30% of an equity injection into the business. The higher the risk business, the more equity they're going to want to see. And so if it's an existing business, you can usually get away with 10% if if you have a good track record and you have a minimum of 10% equity in the business, that typically will work. But just understand, the lender is not going to assume all the risk. Okay, so you've got to be able to put skin in the game. You've got to you've got to be prepared to make an equity injection in the business. And then the other thing is conditions. We've already talked about interest rates. What is that going to do for the overall economy? Where are we with that? There are other things that could come into play with specific products. What's going on with technology and what impact it may be having on different industries, those kinds of things. The bank's going to look at that. But again, I'll go back. I mean, the biggest, to be successful in obtaining that loan, is going to be making sure that you have good financial statements and you understand what's going on, that you've made an adequate injection into the business, and that the business is going to be profitable. All right, kind of wrap up a little bit here. I mentioned we do have a program for private investors. It's called the Small Business Investment Company Program. And this is for existing businesses that are ready to scale. They're doing very well, and they need to bring in additional capital. And most of the time it's done through equity, an equity injection. And when they do that, you're giving up part ownership of your business. But we do have this program available. But frankly, we don't see it used very often. We have one SBIC in South Carolina, and I think they may have done one transaction in the state. So we don't see it used an awful lot, and it's kind of specialized. It's really kind of like a niche type program. The other one I mentioned is the grant program for technology and research and development. Now, this one is used a fairly good amount if your business is doing research or basically if you're doing research. So there are 11 federal agencies. So a lot of times the government doesn't do their own research and development. Okay, so they submit or publish requests for proposals, and so 11 federal agencies that do this. We call it SBIR STTR program. And so you can go to their website and you can see, exactly what type of research they're looking for. But you can see some of the key areas that they're, have been in the past is artificial intelligence, nanomaterials, clean energy, education technology. So the Department of Education is always trying to do things, wearable technology. I know the Department of Agriculture is they're always looking for things, but the SBR has a really good website, sbr.gov, and there's a lot of information if you're interested in pursuing that. International trade or exporting, this is just another opportunity. SBA does provide resources to learn more about that. You know, 2/3 of the world's purchasing power is in foreign countries. You can go to sba.gov/exporting and learn a little bit more about that. We also have um, counseling and training opportunities. The U.S. Export Assistance Centers have counselors that specialize in that, as well as the Small Business Development Center. Um, SBA assists financially, finding buyers internationally. We just made an award to the South Carolina Department of Commerce, provided them with funds through the State Trade Expansion Program. And what that does is it allows businesses to market internationally, attend foreign trade shows, those types of things. So there's funding available there to assist with that. And then SBA has specific loan programs. These are kind of sub loans of the 7A. They're actually 7A loans, but they do come with a 90% guarantee to the bank. So the bank likes that a lot. And we have export express loans, export working capital loans, and then international trade loans. All of those come with a 90% guarantee. And so the other thing that, you know, you may say, well, I don't export, but you know, if you manufacture something and sell it to another company that then exports it, you're still eligible. So always keep your mind open and you know, look for opportunities. Disaster, you know, one thing we learned during the pandemic was those businesses that were a little more prepared came out the back end in a much better place than those businesses that weren't. So, you know, you just need to keep that in mind. We do have information on our website on what you need to do as far as developing a preparedness plan for disasters. You know, and for those businesses that you know, weren't filing taxes or, you know, didn't have, you know, they weren't an official business. They found out real quick that, you know, that was not really in their best interest because they weren't able to obtain those benefits of the program. So just be aware of that. SBA does have disaster loans that are available. You know, in the event of a federally declared disaster, if you have an insurance shortfall, if you don't have insurance, SBA can provide low interest, long-term loans for real estate, personal property, economic injury, machine and equipment, inventory, and for active duty military, right? So that is a program that is there if we need it. Hopefully, you know, we won't have a federally declared disaster, but if we do, SBA will be side by side with FEMA. You know, they'll be on the ground, and they will be there to help process and make those businesses whole. And so it's small. The other key thing to think about here is that it's not limited to small businesses. It can be businesses of any size. In this situation, it can be nonprofit, and it can also be homeowners, right? So if you have a home, you can actually get an SBA loan to help you uh, make your home whole again as it was before the disaster if you have an insurance shortfall or no insurance. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Um, Lender Match, this is a really good tool. I will say just be careful if you use this. This is a tool on the SBA webpage that can help match you with potential business lenders. You answer about 20 questions, create a small narrative, you hit the submit button, and they have 2 days to respond to you and reply if they're interested in talking to you about a loan. The reason I say be careful is because I can promise you will get a lot of responses, whether it be via email or phone call. You're going to have lenders knocking on your door wanting to talk to you about a business loan. But it is if that's if that's what you need, it can be a very viable way to get going in obtaining a loan. All right, change gears totally. I just want everybody to know um, that we do have National Small Business Week awards coming up. Um, This highlights the impacts of outstanding entrepreneurs, small businesses, and community members. And so we have awards that include Small Business Person of the Year, Small Business Exporter of the Year, Female Small Business Person of the Year, Minority Small Business Person of the Year, Rural Small Business Person of the Year, Young Entrepreneur of the Year. So this is a great way to receive the recognition that you deserve. The application deadline is December the 7th. And then I have the link here, and I think we'll be sharing these slides, so you should have all of this information. But I did want everybody to be aware that those National Small Business Week awards are coming up. And so when is National Small Business Week? It is the first week in May. So that will be coming up here in late spring. Just some contact information for our district office, information for me. You can go to our website, sba.gov/SC. We have a calendar there. We post all of the upcoming events for that too. So always check that out, see what other webinars and workshops that you may be interested in. And with that, if anybody has any questions, I'll be more than happy to try to answer them.
There's two more questions. One asks, is a credit repair business eligible?
Yes, as long as it is not, it's not any lending. As long as they're not lending money, if they're doing credit repair and then turning it around and making a loan, the answer would be no. But if they're just repairing credit, acting as kind of a consultant, yes, that would be an eligible loan purpose.
And then the other one, I asked for more information, but didn't get it. What about a community development corporation?
That typically, I believe, would be a nonprofit. And so if it is, that would not be an eligible loan purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, would need a little bit more information on specifically what the business was.
Right. Okay. And then the other question was, you can't get a loan if you're going to use it as for rental income, correct? Because that would be investment property.
That is correct, yes.
Okay. But if you are looking for land that you're going to put a business on, that is different.
We can finance land. It can't be speculative. So in other words, you can't buy the land and just hang on to it. You've got to have specific plans. You're going to buy the land and you're going to put a building on it, and then you're going to conduct your business out of that. That would be totally eligible.
Okay. He clarified, community development corporations are partial, nonprofit, and for-profit.
Yeah, it's not going to be eligible.
Okay.
Other options out there, USDA has some funds for those types of situations, so that may be something you may want to look at. Department of Agriculture, Rural Development.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think that is all for today, William. Thank you so much for presenting for us today. Oh, wait, we've got one more. Let's see.
Oh, thank you for having me.
How might being bankrupt impact eligibility to get the loan?
Yeah, so it just depends on, that goes back to that character question, and it goes back to whether the bankruptcy is open or closed, and the lender is going to make that decision. SBA does not have any specific restrictions on bankruptcy other than the fact if it's still under court jurisdiction, then odds are that the lender is not going to be able to move forward with that.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you again. We appreciate it. And you will receive this recording and slides by tomorrow. And if you have any questions, William has his information and you will also have mine. And we would like to thank Bank of America for sponsoring our Veteran Series. And everybody have a fabulous day. And we will hope to see you at our next webinar. Thank you, William.
Thank you so much.